Guys, what's up? Tori here. So for this video, I'm going to tell you some stories about my worst moments being obese. And I just have some things written down here on a piece of paper. So if you see me looking down here, that's because I wrote some things down, and just kind of share with you some of my worst experiences with being obese and kind of, were things that were goals for me to achieve as I was losing weight. So one of the worst is the first time I ever got thrown off a ride at a theme park, amusement park, whatever you want to call it. The very first time it ever happened to me was I was 13, I was in the 7th grade, and we went to Florida for spring break, because it was my sister's senior year of high school that year, so we did it kind of as my sister's senior year trip kind of thing. And we went to Disney, and at that time it was called Downtown Disney. It's now Disney Springs, and we went to Disney Quest, which is no longer there anymore either. That's been torn down, and there's something else going where it used to be now. But we went to Disney Quest, and they had a ride called Cyberspace Mountain, which was like you built and designed your own roller coaster, and then you got to go in the little simulator and ride it. And me and my sister together designed a roller coaster. My sister did more of the designing because she was much more into roller coasters than I was. And we designed it. We went up to where all the little simulators were. We climbed in. I sat down, put the shoulder rest down, and the ride operators kept kind of like pushing down on my shoulder rest, and we're kind of fiddling with it, and I was like, kind of like, what's going on? Like, and it was down, it was on me, and it felt good, like I was ready to go, and they were like, and then all of a sudden the ride attendant goes, "You can't ride this." And I'm like, "Why not?" And they were like, "Your shoulder rest won't latch." And I'm like, "But it feels fine, it feels like it's on there, it feels like it's not going to go anywhere." And they were like, "Yeah, but it's not latched all the way. Like, it'll pop up if you go upside down." And I was like, "What?" They were like, "It won't latch. Like, you can't ride." And it was one of those, like, it hit me in that moment, like, I was too fat to ride. And so I had to get off the ride, and I literally got off, and I remember bawling my brains out, basically. Like, I remember getting off and just crying, and I think my mom was riding with either my brother or my dad, so she didn't see me until she got off. And then when she saw me upset, she asked me what was the problem, and I told her, I'm like, I couldn't ride the ride, I was too big. And she just said, "Oh honey, I'm so sorry." And I remember her just hugging me. And the next thing we were gonna go ride was Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blaster or whatever. Like, you put a ball in, you like rode in like this bumper car like thing, you put a ball in, and you like had to shoot people around you, is basically what it was. And we were gonna ride that next, and I didn't even want to go ride it because I was upset, and I didn't want to do it. And I just sat on the bench while my family went and did it. And my mom was like, "Are you sure you don't want to ride?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna sit here. Like, I just want to sit for a minute." And I remember being so upset. It was awful. And then along those lines was the next time I had gotten thrown off a ride was, it was the end of 8th grade. All the 8th graders, as a last thing in 8th grade, is we did a trip to Six Flags Great America. And I got thrown off a ride there in front of all my friends. I was refusing to go on roller coasters because at that time too, I was not a fan of roller coasters. I really didn't like them, but I also had a huge fear of, after that experience, I had a huge fear of attempting to go on roller coasters in fear of getting thrown off. And so every time my friends were going to get on a roller coaster, I just told them, "Go ahead and go, I'm going to sit and wait, and I'm not going to go on." And I just kept telling them it was because I didn't like roller coasters. I didn't admit to them that it was because I was afraid I was going to get thrown off. And then there was one roller coaster that they actually were like, "Come on, Tori, you got to try and just go on one with us. Like, come on, you can do it. And they finally convinced me. I was like, "All right, fine, I'll go on one roller coaster with you guys." And I remember walking up really nervous. Like, I was nervous because, yeah, I wasn't crazy about roller coasters at the time, so I had a slight fear of the roller coaster itself, but I had more of a fear of not fitting. And so I believe it was a Batman themed roller coaster. I don't remember for what it was called, if it was called like the Dark Knight, or I just remember it was a Batman themed roller coaster. I don't remember what it was called. And it was one of those, like, you sat in it and your feet dangled and the headrest went over you. And I remember getting on it and sitting and then grabbing the shoulder rest and pulling it down, and it didn't latch, and it could not latch. And it was awful because they were like, you can't ride. And so I got off in front of all my friends and had to go wait for them to get off. And I remember sitting there and crying while they rode the ride. And I felt terrible and miserable, and it was embarrassing and humiliating. There really is nothing quite more embarrassing than getting thrown off a ride in an amusement park. Because not only are you in front of people you know, but you're also in front of a whole bunch of people you don't know, and it's just embarrassing. But then my friends were really sweet. When they got off the ride, the first thing they did was like, Tori, you pick a ride. Any ride you want to go on, we'll all go on it with you. And I believe it was a water ride, I believe that I wanted to go on next, because I've always loved water rides. Like, I love getting wet on a ride. Like, call me crazy, but I love water rides. Like, I always have. And so I think I chose a water ride for the next ride that we went on, I believe. And so that's what we went and did next all together. Like, my friends were very sweet about it. Like, they were very kind to me. They didn't treat me any differently. I've always had good friends, I gotta admit that. But yeah, that was definitely one of the worst moments. And then the next one is breaking a chair. I had a few different times where I broke a chair, but one of the most embarrassing ones was when we were up north with my family, a bunch of my family, and we were getting ready to have dinner, and we had to bring in some plastic chairs from outside to make more room because we had so many of us. And I went to go sit in the plastic chair, and I sat, and it immediately started bending, and it completely broke underneath me because of my weight. And I stood up humiliated, and because a couple of my family members were laughing because they thought it was funny, not really thinking about why exactly. I don't think they were exactly thinking the reason why it actually broke. And I got up and I ran downstairs and locked myself in the bathroom and cried during the entire dinner time. I did not eat dinner till they all got done and were sitting outside by the fire, because I was humiliated. And I remember my mom coming downstairs and like talking to me through the door and being like, honey, it's okay, you don't have to be embarrassed, like it happens, like it probably would have happened if I sat in it too. Like, and because I mean, I will say they were kind of cheap plastic chairs. They weren't like super fancy chairs, but still it was the fact that it did break underneath me, and it was definitely because of my weight, because I was obese. And again, it was just one of those humiliating, awful feelings. And the next one I'm going to talk about is gym class fitness testing. Now, I don't know if you all had to do this in your gym classes. I always had to do fitness testing. Elementary school, even in my high school gym classes, we always did fitness testing. And, you know, it was usually like seeing how many sit-ups you could do, how many push-ups you could do. We did like the sit and reach where like you had to go like this and see like how flexible you were, basically, I think it was. And then also having to do the famous mile run and seeing, you know, what your timed mile was like. And fitness testing was torture for me every time. Every time I had to do it, it was torture, because I always had the worst. I was always the last person to get done with the mile by a lot. I always did the least amount of sit-ups, the least amount of push-ups compared to everyone else. Like, fitness testing was just torture for me, because it just made me feel that much more awful about myself. It made me realize just how unhealthy I was, and I hated it. And I had a couple of one gym teacher in particular made me feel always not so great about it. I won't bring up who she was. She was my high school gym teacher. Her and I definitely got into tiffs a couple of times over my being overweight. And I hated it. I did. It just was always awful because of the fact that I was always the last one done, and with everything and was the slowest, and it just was humiliating, and it made it easy for me to get picked on too. And also in general, like having to change in the locker rooms too when I got to be like in middle school and high school, and we actually had to, you know, change into gym clothes. I hated changing in front of everybody because it was like then everyone was going to see all my fat and nasty, and I hated that as well. So those were awful moments. And then the last one I have is having to sit alone on a plane when I went to the Bahamas when I was going into my senior year of high school. So it was summer of 2011. I went on a mission trip to the Bahamas with my youth group, and because I could not fit in the normal seats by where the rest of my youth group was sitting, my youth pastor had to get me a separate plane seat. And they, like, the flight, we used Spirit Airlines, and Spirit Airlines had seats that were bigger seats for bigger people, and I had to sit in a seat that was separate from everyone else. And I hated that because I couldn't sit with the rest of my youth group and my friends. I had to sit all by myself up at the front of the plane with complete strangers, so I had no one to talk to, nothing. And it was kind of humiliating, and I felt very alone, and again, just a not good feeling. As you can see, they were just all things that weren't good feelings and made me feel bad about myself. And so now those were all things that I was like, you know what, they became goals for me. They were goals for me to be fitter and healthier, to be able to do more of the fitness type stuff, being able to ride rides at theme parks, being able to sit in whatever chair I want, and being able to ride in a normal airplane seat. And I now can do all those things, and it's great. But yeah, I just thought I'd share with you guys some of my worst moments being obese. If you guys have any of your stories you want to share, you can share them with me in the comments. If you have any more questions about other experiences that I may have had, you can also leave them in the comments. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. I'll leave those links in the description box below. I love you guys so, so much. And remember, even if you had some of those bad experiences, work hard to achieve your goals, and and those experiences will just all be in the past, and they will be things to push you further to having a healthier, happier life. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Love you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.